G'day dear Wastelanders, Sanctuary Stonemason here, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Stonemason's Guides. This is a new series of videos I'm going to do with all the tips and tricks necessary to enter the Sanctuary Stonemasons Guild. Or more literally, everything you need to know to rebuild your own personal commonwealth. For the first episode, I'll be walking you through all of the little back doors in Bethesda's build system that help you step up your construction game, or as they're perhaps better known, build glitches. We'll be covering rug glitches, pillar glitches, proximity glitches, the clipping glitch, the weapons glitch, and finally the controversial duplication glitch. All the things you need to know to elevate your accommodation from wasteland shack to relative palatial post-war luxury. Now, none of these techniques require mods, so if you're looking to seriously step up the scale and complexity of your settlements and not sacrifice the algorithm-friendly no mod status, then this is the place for you. So, pick up those ball-peen hammers and let's get started. First up, we have the rug glitch. This is the basic practice of placing an item on any rug and using said rug to move an item into place. A tip to make sure you successfully implement a rug glitch is to ensure that the rug you're placing an item on is somehow elevated. This means there's a clear visual cue to the item latching on, as it's always possible for an item to slide through the rug as opposed to on it. This basic use of a rug glitch is especially useful when placing items that has excessive boundary issues, such as the Nuka-Cola machine. I feel your pain, Nuka-Cola machine. This helps the item develop a closer relationship with the wall. Now, this technique is not limited by size or weight, as can be seen with this chunky metro station marker. However, what it is limited to is non-snappable build items. Anything that snaps, such as this fetching security wall here, or the vast majority of items in the structure menu, won't attach to the rug, as you can see. As a further example, this container piece will also be ignored by the rug with the same vigor that I ignore a withheld number. However, joyously, the junk walls have no such issues, as you can see. All one need do is ensure that the wall is correctly placed atop the rug and the connection is complete. Which brings me neatly on to the second phase of this lesson. As much as it's fine and dandy to use a single rug, the real benefits with the rug glitch lie in what I'll refer to as a cascade of rugs. This technique adds an additional benefit in that the relationship between the eventual placement is still determined by the first rug of the cascade, meaning that the item can be superimposed or blended into anything you see fit. This lends to a host of creative outcomes, not least the ability to build some gnarly looking defensive walls. As you can see, the rug glitch is a great way to blend build items with existing in-game structures to lend your own personal touch of wasteland swagger. As I add this second wall piece, I'll mention that there is one side effect of rug glitching that is perhaps undesirable, which is that pieces will sink and rise as you remove rugs. There's no hard and fast rule to this, and it's very much item specific. It's just a case of making the best of it, as I've never found a way to overcome it. As a quick note, this technique does not require a select all or a press and hold selection. The only item in the cascade that should be green is the first rug, otherwise you won't experience the wondrous benefits of a rug glitch, and the build system will treat all items as per normal. So now we've had a look at the basic practice of the rug glitch, I'll show you one of the creative uses I have for it, which is to jazz up one of the food and drink shop pieces. Long-time watchers of the channel will know that these build items are a particular bugbear of mine and represent the worst of Bethesda laziness, as the only variation that's been applied to these stores is a clunky word on the front such as bar and gun shop. So this is a great opportunity to use the rug glitch to add some interest and make them considerably more unique. What we will see now is that when we remove the rugs, the counter will sync, which is fine here as it still looks great, but I do have a little trick to avoid this, which we'll discuss later in the episode. Next up, let's look at the pillar glitch. While similar to its rug equivalent, the basics of the pillar glitch is that it utilizes the sinking qualities that pillars possess to sink build items into the ground where they otherwise might not go. I always use the concrete pillar for no other reason than I always have, but either the warehouse pillar or the barn pillar work equally as well, or better. For all I know, I've never tried, let me know in the comments. Now, the basic technique of the pillar glitch is that you locate the pillar as close as you can to the item that you wish to work with, and utilize the press and hold select to grab all the items. Now, as a little tip, always make sure that the pillar is a little sunk into the ground before you click, and that we immediately start to see some green whilst moving up and down, and then celebrate your success. From here, feel free to manipulate at will, and the end result is the placement of items that looks far more integrated into the environment than the standard placement system. As you'll see in almost all of my builds, such as Nordhagen or Sanctuary itself, this is the basic method I use for all my settlement walls, as the slow construction of independently placed sections lends to a much more believable feel and look, as you'll start to see here. Especially if you really dig into all the various wall pieces and put yourself in the mindset of the people scouring the wasteland for anything they can find to protect their community, and how they'd put what they find together to form a defensive structure. And from here, as part of the wall building process, let's do a callback to our previous glitch lesson and use your rug glitching skills to add some texture to our sunken corrugated defences with some junk wall reinforcement. Once you've mastered the basics of the pillar glitch, the only limit is that of your own imagination. As you can see now, it can be used to maneuver entire structures into position in a way that integrates into the environment. It can also be utilised in Sanctuary and a few other locations for replacing floors in the existing structures. All you have to do is measure out the corresponding floor squares and find the sweet spot for location. Near the front door is always a good place to start. Now, this is very much a case of trial and error, and persistence is key. There is always a way. As a final note for the pillar glitch, there's another technique where it can be used as a method of manipulating stubborn build items within a built structure. As you can see, certain items can be reluctant to be created in situations where it very much looks like they should. This technique depends on the original position of the pillar being a little different. Instead of sinking the pillar a little, the trick is to find the point that the pillar pops onto the surface, like you can see here. It also requires that you place the pillar next to the item you're looking to move at a point where it's as flush as possible with the surface. From here, it's very much the same process in that you press and hold the select button to select all items, and you'll be able to slide the item into the position you require. And with that, you should be ready to wield your pillar with confidence. The pillar glitch really is the keystone to building believable and interesting settlements, and once mastered becomes a fundamental part of your building method and a jumping off point for a plethora of experimentation. There is literally hours of fun to be had and nothing that can't be sunk. Let's have a look at the proximity glitch. The proximity glitch is designed to overcome some of the stubbornness of Bethesda's build limitations in that it can be tricky to get things to go on things and directly next to things. The method is to build an item in proximity to where we want our eventual piece to be and allow the snap system to supersede the limitation. In this example, you notice we weren't allowed by our software overlords to build right next to the existing structure. So if we get as close as possible, snap an adjacent piece, delete the original piece, move this piece to the proximity of where we want the original piece to be, and then we get the snap to work its magic. That, in a nutshell, is the proximity glitch. This method can also be used to glitch in a building foundation on the existing structures like the ones found in Sanctuary. The trick here is to create a keystone item in proximity to the building, in this case a ladder, and this will allow you to begin snapping away to your heart's content until you have the foundations for a larger construction. It's within this kind of application that the proximity glitch really comes into its own, as the ability to incorporate in-game structures and features into your buildings really adds a bit of magic to a settlement, and as with all things, it's just a case of experimentation and trial and error, but in my experience of using this technique, there's no way you can't build. It's just a case of finding the right place to start. Okay, let's have a look at the clipping glitch. Not so much a glitch as an unintended property that furniture possesses, this is the process of overlaying two items to make them look as one. The only real tip to mention here is that with almost all items, it only works moving in one direction. Usually right to left as you're facing, so if you try and move items together and it turns red, simply try again from the other side. This technique's great for things like mocking up longer lab benches or large dining tables, like the one you'll see in the Minutemen Lodge in my Sanctuary City build. Now I'll combine the clipping glitch with the rug glitch to make a bigger version of the bar I made earlier. I will say that to do things like this, I use the rugs that come with the Modern Furniture Workshop pack, as they have a property that no other rug does, in that they actually slide underneath other furniture items. This means that they can be utilised as a way of adding an aesthetic, but also it means I can avoid the sinking issue we had with the earlier rug, as we don't have to remove it. As you can see, this combination of glitches can lend to some really cool and unique features for your settlements. And now the infamous weapons glitch. This particular glitch is the method I use for tricking the build limit into resetting. First, all you need to do is grab a whole load of guns, the bigger and more modded the better. From there, move somewhere with plenty of space and proceed to drop them from your inventory. Then what you need to do is enter the build mode and proceed to store your weapons in the workshop. What this does is trick the build system into thinking you're removing items from the settlement, which tricks the build limit into reducing. If you keep your eye on the top right, you'll notice there will be a considerable decrease in the build limit bar. Now this is a risky process and I can only speak as a PS5 user, but for me, resetting the build limit entirely 3 times seems to be pretty safe and stable. 4 times you'll start to feel the pull, and 5 is where you start to risk really big crashes and potential file save corruptions, so please be careful and keep hard save backups at safe points. Right, finally let's have a look at the duplication glitch. For me, this is a glitch that should only be implemented once you've completed the vast majority of the game's content, as resource collection and generation is a huge part of the game, and this glitch certainly crosses the line to what can be considered a cheat. However, in a post-game world of settlement building, this glitch can be a lifesaver. All you need to do is drop the resources you wish to duplicate on the floor, enter the build mode, and in one fluid motion move from the scrap to store button, keeping the store button depressed. If the process has worked, you'll notice that both option windows will be available, meaning that you can confirm both a scrap and a store in the workshop, thus duplicating the item. Again, this isn't really in the spirit of playing the game, but for builds as big as my Sanctuary City, it's essential as there really isn't enough steel in the Commonwealth. So there we have it. Hopefully that's been a helpful guide to the basics of glitching. If you haven't already, please drop me a sub and a like. I've got some really exciting builds in the works and can't wait to share them with you all. Also, I'll have the final part of my Outpost Ammonia how to build, which should be my next video. But until then, see you soon!